Ah, ah,
My apologies,
listen.
brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. I have to apologize. You really getting away with yourself with this entrance, man.
I'm in these streets. I'm in these streets. I'm in these streets. I've been traveling since about 11 a.m. You know what I mean? In these streets. What's
Man, how
going
you
on, good
doing?
brother? I'm
What's
doing
going
well. I'm
on?
doing well. No complaints, man. No complaints. Just shaking and baking, making moves for the fam and the generations to come of my brothers and sisters. So that's all I'm out here in these streets doing.
That's what
How
it's
about
about.
you? How
Man,
about
I'm
you?
I'm excellent, man. I just got off of a IG Live interview. I've been on
Sorry, I
IG
missed
Live
it.
before, right? But I've never been interviewed on IG Live, and
Mm.
man, that's dope. So I got some wheels spinning. Um, Wonderful, powerful, motivational, incredible uh, young lady, and I don't mean that in a subordinate way. I mean that youth as in enthusiasm, youth as in energy, youth as in innovative, cutting edge, and ready for what's next.
Yeah.
Young professional interviewed me about corporate trauma. So
Mm.
we had to bring the pain for about
Mm-hmm.
45 hard minutes, you know what I'm saying? And so
Wouldn't
I
expect
enjoyed
nothing
that.
else.
So to all of you who are tuning in at 8 p.m. versus 7 p.m., that's why we pushed the time up a little bit to accommodate those that. But this is flexibility. This is we're consistent, but we're not inflexible, right? The
Mm.
corporate industrial complex has us thinking that we have to be perfect instead of excellent. And so it would have been it. I deemed it, and Robert deemed it excellent for us to be able to engage another partner in
Uh,
this concept of corporate trauma and start this podcast an hour later, then be perfect. For what reason do we have to do 7 p.m.? Like, all right, this ain't a TV station. We ain't got no sponsors. Not yet.
nah, but it's not. But think about it though. It's not even that though. For
Right.
everybody that's listening, here's something to think about. You can go and do other things for other people. You can be in other places, but it's nothing like having something of your own,
What? Ownership.
right? So you got folks who are looking for you, who they're looking for your content, they're looking to interact with you, and you supply them with something that's valuable. But that doesn't mean that you can't be flexible in how you move because who you answer to is the person you see in the mirror.
Right.
When you find something like that,
Right.
there's a different level of confidence when you go to work on Monday
Tell them, Rob.
because you know what it's like to own something. You know
Tell.
what it's like to create something. It's sort of like when you become a parent.
Right.
After a while, when you take the training wheels off and you're okay with the kids going to sleep without checking on them and all the other stuff, you're like, you know what, man, I feel good. Like I got this. I'm figuring out even though you're learning as you're going.
Right.
There's so many different pieces that you kind of put together, and you're like, I got this. This is me. I got this. And it's the same thing, with the podcast and with many other things. You learn so much more, and it's yours.
Yeah.
You know,
And when it's yours, it belongs to the people.
it belongs to the people.
You know, and to quote my brother Rob, that's why we don't come on here. We don't invite ourselves into your homes during your leisure time and put on shirts and ties as if you need that, right? We are intentional about making you safe. And man, that IG live, man, I really felt comfortable. I really felt safe. Um, engaging um, my partner, my buddy, Brooke Waller, or Brooke motivates, engaging her audience, and man, we on the same page. You know what I'm saying? You know how sometimes if your thoughts are strong enough, somebody somewhere else is picking up on the same wavelength, right? And they talk about a little bit in the laws of attraction, right? What you say out your mouth will manifest in front of you. So it is no coincidence that like-minded individuals on this
Hmm.
corporate trauma um, tip is coming together to re-engage the corporate industrial complex in a more meaningful way that is accommodating for the masses and not just the elite, right? Um, so we leveling up, Rob.
Yeah,
And
man.
we remember
Listen.
we was having this conversation a couple years ago, and I was hitting them hard on LinkedIn. He was like, "Well, how's your engagement?" I was like, "My engagement is weak." And I was like, I think they're scared. I think that people are scared of me of what I'm saying. So man, so I'm glad I'm in. Consistency matters as well, man. But this is Black History Month, man.
And listen. I'm gonna tell you, this is the quote that I had. I did a keynote at a school
Uh huh.
um some time back, and I want people to take this with them. We make Black history every day,
Right. Every day,
right? Every day we make Black history,
every single
you
day.
know. And the most important thing that we can do is love ourselves and love ours, right? Just as much as everybody else love themselves and love their own, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's this the idea of being pro-black doesn't make you not like anyone else less.
Right.
Being pro yours, like like for me, I look at other folks and they're like, yeah, I want my people to do good. I hope your people do well,
Yeah.
and I hope we do better.
Right.
So, you know what I mean?
Well,
And
I
I
mean,
hope we do
it's
better.
impossible to love other people if you don't love yourself.
Correct.
I
Correct.
mean, it's an act.
Yeah.
It's really a performance. And
Hmm.
while we on the tip of Black History, man, somebody dropped a jewel on me a few years ago.
Yeah.
Uh, Black History Month was born out of Negro History Week. Carter G. Woodson,
Hmm.
correct me if
R.G.
I'm wrong,
Woodson.
people.
Correct.
Um, and they saw fit to give the recognition of the contributions of Black and melanated people in this country, a month. But what we're celebrating in the approach that we celebrated mainstream wise is still this. We're actually looking into what is called Negro history, because Negro is not a term that we use, even though that's where it started. Negro History Week. It's not a widely accepted term to describe our experiences anymore. But but when you look at what it is, it's the history of our people after the transatlantic slave trade, right? As if our contributions to the world started then. It did not. So Black history is a celebration of our contributions throughout time, throughout the world, prior to 1555, or most notably recognized
You
1619.
mean that's what it should be?
That's what it
Like
should be.
that's what it should be.
Right. That's if we're going to be accurate, and words matter, and we're going to talk
Yeah, they
about
do.
that a little later, right?
They do.
So if it's Black history, then we got to go past 1555, the year 1555, when the first enslaved Africans touched the shores of Jamestown, Virginia, and they were brought over here on a ship by the name of Jesus, or Jesus, if you're Spanish, of Taliban or something like, I forget the name of it. But slavery is recorded as starting in 1619, after that 64-year period of time where we were made accommodating for the enslavement of our people, right? There were certain things that had to be done. You had to have a couple of generations born separated from the parents, not
Mhm.
having their language and whatnot. But anything prior after that, that's really our contributions to the world after that. But before that, that's Black history. It goes back thousands of years. So just wanted to
Well,
put that out there
but there's
for our
also some.
listeners, man. Go ahead.
But I would also throw in there, we folks wasn't so much black until they got here.
Right.
I really want people to really like, process some of this stuff. When folks talk about certain things around race, right?
Right.
You've really got to look at it from the standpoint of there wasn't always so much black black folks, and there
Right.
definitely wasn't always this idea of white folks,
Right.
right? And if folks remember from our first conversation, maybe it was the first episode or the second episode where I'm always gonna try and make sure folks understand. At one point in time, it was broken down to folks' ethnicity,
Right.
right, and where you were from in some form or fashion. So many folks, when you come here to America, you came here, if you fall under, let's say, the Caucasian banner, you were Polish, you were Irish, you were French. Now the Brits in America were white, the only group of white folks.
Right.
They were like, and I'm sharing this, and we can move on after this. I'm sharing this piece because there are breadcrumbs there that, in some form of fashion, we got to take note of.
No, that's a fact.
And folks said, "Hey, it's a lot of us. It's a lot of folks who are similar to us.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all should be on our team
Mm-hmm.
for real." Like, and here's a piece I don't think people kind of connect. Bring us your sick and your poor. They
Mm-hmm.
wasn't talking about black. They wasn't talking about
Mm-mm.
folks from the continent of Africa.
Nah.
Bring us your weak, your crippled. They wasn't
Right.
talking about them. They were talking about folks who could come here, and when they had babies, they would look like those who bring the slave ships over in 1619. They were securing a future and building up their bench. If you were a GM and you're thinking about how we're going to make sure that our whole entire team is sustained across the decades, then you got to build your bench. You got to build out the ranks of your organization. When we look at our own group of people, we still be so caught up with infighting, and a big part of that is we still dealing with the trauma that's internal.
Right. Identity crisis.
Yeah. So we dealing with all those different pieces where
Mm-hmm.
when you kind of look at it, it's like, man, once we get past these pieces, then we can make the impact on the world. Because here's the craziest thing, and this is where when brother Jamal says Black history, here's the thing that people got to really think about: the things that have happened across the past 400 years. We're in there, we're sprinkled in. We have no real idea of how deep our impact was. But over the course of human history,
Mm. Incredible.
we have more impact on human history, whether people tell you or not.
Right.
We have more impact on human history, right, than anybody else.
Right.
Probably damn near combined.
Right.
We've been around the world. you know, we were plotting out stars, all
Mm-hmm.
these different places. That's why you can go anywhere and you can find someone who looks like me or Jamal, and you can find them throughout history. You can find those indigenous folks who look like us. So there's so much stuff that's there. When we talk about leveling up, you want to know your history, and your history definitely started before 1619.
And that's a fact. And I'm glad we are having this conversation. I know some of y'all may be like, well, where are you going with this? Well, I mean, it's the first Thursday of February, which is our first broadcast in Black History, our first Black History Month,
First
um,
ever,
first ever.
ever,
So
ever.
we're justified, right? Spending a few minutes, but this is important because this is the type of identity politics that we bring into the workplace,
Mm,
right? And based on our history, those identity politics can turn into insecurity politics.
mm.
How so, you say, Jamal? Well,
Preach.
we got a couple of things that we're going to talk about tonight as it relates to leveling up past corporate trauma, because at the end of the day, people's jobs, careers, professions are at stake, right? And one of the things that helps this to be true is representation, how you identify yourself, and better yet, when you add how others identify you, um, regardless of how you see yourself, right? And there are distinct differences, and there's a few things that we want to talk about that just happened within the last week. Whew.
Oh,
Lord have
uh-oh.
mercy.
Uh-oh.
Can I take a deep breath?
I'm already taking one.
Listen here, man. Listen here. I'm like, all right, we usually get one a week, right? If we lucky, we'll get two. This week we got three hot takes. Three hot takes that we weren't aware of or didn't happen yet, or we just failed to discuss last week, that have become really revolving media. And so those of you who don't know, um, the great thespian, award-winning actor Whoopi Goldberg was suspended off of The View for making comments that many said were insensitive and incompassionate, and then some said it was even inaccurate, right? And so we have that, Rob, okay? Suspended, disciplinary action from her job. Her job is to go live and make commentary that sometimes, like, you can't rehearse it. That's their platform, right? She said something that was reprehensible in the minds of a lot of people, but and this is not the first time any one of them, especially Whoopi, has said anything that was, you know what I mean, like that made people kind of scratch, the chalkboard. And dude, she got suspended. You know how hard you know how bad you gotta do something as a grown person with a job to get suspended for 2 weeks? Just let that marinate while I go to the next story. Football coach, highly sought after, talented, winning, and African American or Black football coach, which is head coach, which is a rarity in the National Football League, has shocked the sports world by suing the NFL for systematic racism because he received a text message from his old boss. And I'm saying that with tongue-in-cheek emphasis. This is what he's saying. This is not what Jamal's saying. He said he received a text message from Bill Belichick, whom he was an assistant football coach for the New England Patriots. He was under Bill Belichick. Belichick sent him a text message of congratulations for receiving an offer to be the head coach of the New York Giants after being let go from the Miami Dolphins. What? Are you serious? The crazy part of this story is Mr. Flores is looking at his phone like, what do you mean, congratulations? I haven't even interviewed yet. Long story short, Bill Belichick was congratulating the wrong
Guy.
Brian, a white head coach, talented as well, who was interviewing for the same position. But Belichick heard, according to Mr. Flores, that the other Brian got the job and mistext the wrong Brian in his phone. All the while, Mr. Flores was preparing to sue the NFL because he feels like he was let go from the Miami Dolphins, whom he has a winning record with. Rookie, 3 years. He's basically a rookie coach. He was let go because he feels like he rubbed ownership the wrong way because he declined to take an extra $100,000 or so a game to lose so that they could be positioned high in the NFL draft.
Well,
What? So he lost his job, and now because of the Rooney Rule, he's interviewing for another job as an exercise in futility because the person whom got the job was
Mhm.
already penciled in for the job, and other people knew it before the last interviewer sat down. And Mr. Flores said he went and interviewed anyway just to show them that he was a serious candidate. But I have my own theory on that. Right, why he went and interviewed anyway. But he knew he wasn't getting it. And it's funny to me because I've been through the same thing. Interviewing for a job that they already made the decision that I wasn't going to get. Well, why are you interviewing me? Because the NFL has to, because they are notoriously exclusive with interviewing only white head coach candidates for open head coaching positions. And then to add insult to
Mandatory.
injury,
Mhm.
what is he? Is he a senator? Ted Cruz? I don't even know what he is no more.
I don't like that dude.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of him.
Let's just say former presidential candidate, and I
He's a
apologize.
congressman or one of those. One of
Yeah,
those. I don't know.
okay. Congressman. Ted Cruz, the same dude who flew his children to a
What?
destination vacations during the
In the middle of
coronavirus,
COVID. Correct.
the outbreak, the initial outbreak, right?
Mhm.
Said that um, it is um, insulting for President Biden to earmark the open
Mhm.
Supreme Court justice position for a African American woman. He said, in fact, black women
Mhm.
should feel insulted by the gesture because they're only 6% of the population. And to say that a black woman is going to get this job is, and I quote, is telling the other 94% of the country that you don't care about them. What, Ted? Right?
Yeah.
But in the history of this country, there has never been a black or African American female voice on the top bench in the government as a Supreme Court justice ever. They have all been 96.4% of them have been white men with a handful of people of color and a couple of women. I mean, don't quote me on the amount.
Mhm.
I'm not minimizing it. I just don't want to, I don't want us to come here, and I want us to have a logical barbershop conversation about these three incidents that have happened over the last week. This is mind boggling to me, Rob, because you're telling me after several decades, several millennia, 100 years, a couple of 100 years of this country's history, that one of the most significant voices and contributors has been muted from that conversation. And because somebody decided that it was politically and patriotically expedient to make sure that that voice, the African American female voice, the black woman's voice, is represented on the highest court in the land, is somehow insulting to that same demographic who has been excluded off of that for decades.
So you
But
wasn't playing today.
I wasn't playing today. And look, we need help. We need help. So Rob, soon in a minute, I gotta let you. You gotta. I'm gonna turn you loose because
No. Listen,
listen.
I, I'm listen, because like for folks who
Is
know
this
me, man.
corporate trauma? Is this corporate trauma? Am I reaching? Whoopi
Um,
suspended. Dude, the Brian Flores is interviewing for jobs he's not gonna get after being fired from a job that he is qualified and earned, and then black women can't even get a shot. Are we
I,
serious?
I I'm
Is this
gonna say too.
2021?
Oh man, is it 1619?
Come on, man.
But I'll say too. I'll say it in this way. The trauma piece comes from the expectation that you shouldn't be doing anything.
Mm.
right? Where you need to stay in your place. You know, don't speak out of turn. There are so many scholars who fall into the boat, or so many people who fall in the boat of saying certain things that you just like that didn't make any sense, and maybe it didn't work for you, and just like folks didn't feel like whatever Whoopi said didn't work for them. Got it. The biggest thing for me is we as a group of people, especially with folks like Senator Ted Cruz,
Senator Ted Cruz.
don't let them box us
Mm-hmm.
on this righteous tip,
Right.
because that's how they get us.
Right.
If the sisters are listening to him, I hope they listen to me. Don't let that joker stop you from getting a lifetime appointed, being a lifetime, being appointed to a lifetime position in the highest court in the land. And these are individuals who they move in ways to make sure that they set themselves up.
Right.
Some of these folks are people who marry people who look a certain way,
Right.
who hair is a certain way, who eyes are a certain way, to
Right.
make sure that their kids are set up a certain way.
That's right.
I would not take I would not take advice from someone who does not want their children to look as ethnic as their grandparents, but their grandparents, not them, but their grandparents.
So you starting
So
something now.
I told you not to bring. I said I wasn't gonna jump on this today. I said I'm not jumping in, and I said, man, I hope Jamal don't get me fired. But
Man, this is
but as
good
always,
conversation, strong conversation.
we're talking about individuals who, well, and let's be clear, there are black folks who do it too,
Yes, absolutely.
and there are Hispanic and Latino and Latinx and there are a lot of folks who do it. There are some folks who are not satisfied with their red hair. They don't want to be a blonde. There's a whole bunch of folks. What I do know, the person who is not satisfied will not be the person who is telling me to not use my black card, or my black card is the joker in the deck
Come
on
on.
this particular day. On the day when my card is drawn to be the joker, I shall not relinquish my power to cut thy ass in the spades game. I am telling you right now, if it ain't on a
Jokers
10,
is
a spade.
wild. Right.
But when you can be the big joker, like right now for them three women who are all qualified,
Yes.
who have all, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Who are all going through the process,
Yes.
who've all gone through the process, right?
Yeah.
They've already been acknowledged as being qualified
Right.
on some level. The idea that when you become the big joker in the deck in the spades game, you gonna let a diamond who to play you.
Mm.
We have fallen for that trap enough. I'm telling you right now, I see too many people who play their cards. And then when it's our turn to play our card, they're like, well, you shouldn't do it like that. Like, nah, listen, folks scream about nepotism, they don't care. And then
Right.
once you get there, oh well, you know what? Nah, you only doing that because that person's black or that person is this, bro. You got years, you got decades.
Mm.
You have decades of reaping rewards. And I'm gonna leave it with this. I said this to my dad about because he's ain't no fun when they got the gun.
Ain't no fun with the rabbit got the gun. But listen, y'all.
Yeah.
Listen, y'all. Listen. Don't take it from us, right? We brought a subject matter expert
Uh-huh.
to confirm or yet deny our conversation. Either we went too far or we didn't go far enough. It ain't nothing in the middle, right? And so we can pick through this conversation of these last three incidents, a little further, I would like to introduce to everybody a consummate professional in her own right, Miss Brooke
Hey,
Motivates, right? Or Brooke Waller,
Brooke Wallace.
aka Dub, right? So,
B Dub.
Hey.
motivational speaker, professional coach, mentor. She has dedicated this side of her career to empowering people, especially Black women of color, for regaining their footing and understanding that the workplace is not something or
Awesome.
somewhere that you have to go and just totally evade who you truly are. I had the pleasure of being interviewed by her earlier this evening, and her specialty, her signature content she's a trainer, she's a workshop facilitator, but her signature content is called workplace trauma, which is very similar, if not the same, as what it is that we are asserting with respect to corporate trauma. So, welcome to the Level Up Past Corporate Trauma Podcast,
Hey,
Brooke.
Brooke. Hey,
Thank
Brooke.
you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. Thank you, Brother Jamal. Thank you, Rob. I'm just so honored to be on here tonight and discuss this topic about corporate trauma because it is real out here in these streets with corporate trauma, and a lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people don't discuss it, but I have went through trauma in the workplace. I've healed through trauma, and so
Hmm.
now I'm helping people, navigate, acknowledge it, and kind of heal themselves and get those resources. So I'm
Excellent.
excited to share.
Awesome.
Well, it's awesome to have you, right? Because you know we could use cut cards. Like, I don't know Rob like that, I don't know Jamal like that, I don't know, I've never, but no, just your willingness to be here to add credibility to our platform is truly an honor. So thank you for coming. Thank you for allowing, and this is a heck of a week to come and have a conversation with Jamal and Rob. So let's get right into it. Whoopi Goldberg, right? Um, been on The View for several years. For those of you who may not be familiar, she, and I'm not going to get all the way into it because I don't necessarily want to conflate what we are trying to discuss with the particulars of her comment, but I do want to raise her comment. Um, and I'm careful to, because I don't want to give any context to it that does not exist. But what she said was that, in a nutshell, that the Holocaust, which is an atrocity towards humanity in general, and the attempt of genocide on 6 million plus Jewish individuals, and I think it was 9 million total. Hitler, a wicked man, was not fond of a lot of different people, right? He espoused the prominence of the Aryan race, or anybody that was not that, you had a target. And but the Jewish community, however, he specifically targeted because of what he called them being an inferior race. And what Whoopi was saying is that what he did was not about race, it was about man's inhumanity to man. Now, this is a very sensitive topic because of, and I can relate because I'm connected to my ancestors and what they went through. Um, but we're talking about, at the very least, this is misnomers, misunderstandings, like, the basis of what the context around her statement is based on is something Hitler said, which is not the most sound thing to really base any opinion off of. But when we look at the actions and the results, right, you can understand the sensitivity around it. But it was an open forum, The View,
Yes.
that things have been said that have been insensitive to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, right? I remember, who is the former John McCain's son. Meghan McCain, she said a lot of
Meghan
stuff
McCain, yeah.
that made a lot of people upset, insensitive, right? From their purview, from their position. There ain't no 2-week suspension for her, you know. And I'm not saying one deserves one over the other, but it begs the conversation. Whoopi was disciplined for 2 weeks, and it kind of brings up this idea of the example, the harsh example being me. But I don't, I just wanted to lay the base. What do y'all think? How do y'all feel from a corporate job? I got to go to work every day. Perspective that I just got dinged for 2 weeks.
I was just like, I was talking to a friend about this today, actually, and I was like, what did she say? Like, because I didn't really catch everything, and then I heard that you just mentioned it as well. And I said, well, yeah, it was on their religion, not based on their race, as slavery was purely race driven. It was racial, even segregated by light skin, dark skin. And I feel like they're making her an example. As Black women, we hire you, you check off the diversity quota to help our diversity numbers. You look nice and pretty, sit there, don't say anything, don't disrupt anything, don't try to shake the table too much, and then, oh, you want to speak out, you're disciplined, you go sit down.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Even though the accuracy of her comments and how it landed is arguable, right? And I can empathize how people, we just know how this conversation goes, but that's not, that's a moot point here. It's like you said, Brooke, go sit down. Like, you can make a mistake, but you can't make this one.
Well, but you know what though? So it's crazy because maybe I'm in the middle, or maybe I'm just all the way on the other side. Some of this stuff I just think folks got to take notes on.
Mm-hmm.
They control their narrative.
That's
And
right.
if at any point in time you get out of pocket,
Mm-hmm.
you pay a consequence.
Absolutely.
I am at a point in time in my life where I would rather be the person who make folks pay consequences than to be trying to get folks to change the game so we can that fear and being on the same page ain't it.
So you saying
We've
ownership
tried that.
matters. So you saying ownership matters.
Ownership matters
You
big
tired of
time.
sitting at somebody else's table.
Because if Meghan McCain was on your radio station and she said some of those things, she probably would be fired. Because it's your space. So a
Exactly.
lot of times, we can get upset at things. And then granted, was her sentiments in the wrong place? No.
No,
Her
it wasn't
sentiments is like,
malicious.
this,
It wasn't
because
malicious.
when you really think about it, when you look at attacking someone's humanity, that can be larger, right? It's like, these are some horrible dudes. Like they were taking away folks' humanity.
Right.
Similarly to how folks was taking away our ancestors' humanity and
Right.
more or less saying we're more like animals.
Right.
So when you kind of think about where she kind of was weighing it, it
Yeah.
was race for us as well as taking away your humanity.
Right.
To the point where you got the father of evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who said, like, yo, black folks, and I'm talking about Charles Darwin, man,
Yep.
black folks ain't human.
Right.
Like, dudes ain't human.
Right.
So you got the whole entire thing built and baked in. But they own stuff,
They own it.
right? So if you the father of evolution and you say, hey, nah, bro, they ain't human. So I can understand if you want to treat them like cows, then you can, because they more like cows than they like your daughter.
Right. They low on the
Right. So when you control all these different pieces, and I'm not like saying that to say it's all cool. That's not
Right.
it. But when you walk in these places, this is what we sign up for.
Mm.
And unless a
What you
bunch of us
sign
get
up
on the
for.
same
You gotta
page and
say
on the
that one more
same
time for
level,
the people in
Jamal,
the
you
back.
must be on mute, bro. I can't hear you. They got you. Oh, they turned your internet off. Told you. I told you we should have left this topic alone. Look, see, look. I was like, Jamal, leave it.
Can you hear
Don't
me?
leave it. Look, they got him. They got him. It's over.
Can you hear me?
It's over.
Yeah.
They got you on your own podcast because
Okay, you can
you
hear
don't
me.
own internet.
Hey man, say
Brooke,
that
can
again
you
for the people
wait?
in the back, man. No, I think it's
You
your
is me,
headphones. Yeah, it's you. They got
Brooke.
you.
You can hear him.
Yeah, I can hear him.
All right, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
stop talking. Cool.
Oh, God. No, but Rob, you make a great point, and I'm glad that you said it because ownership matters, and
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the anecdotes to corporate trauma. You set your own table, you make your own narrative, and you control the flow. And we can talk about what's fair and what's not fair all day, but control and ownership is what decides what actually is fair and what is right. But we got the NFL. I mean, shout out to Whoopi Goldberg. You know what I'm saying? I agree with some of her stuff, and I vehemently disagree with some of her positions. Right? But she had the courage to say what was on her mind. Right? Which is an example of why Black women are so important in these spaces because she dons the surname Goldberg as a Black woman born in New York City. Karen something Johnson, right? But her stage name is Whoopi Goldberg because she identifies with her Jewish heritage somewhere down the line. So who better to make this statement, right? But context matters. And right or wrong, it doesn't matter if she was right or wrong in her statement when it comes down to those that pay them bills know that, hey, we can't have our benefactors offended by something that they may not be able to come outside of their intellectual cowardice to really parse in the context of the view, right? It may be too much. We can't go that far, Whoopi. Take 2 weeks, right? So, but it's just a lesson in semantics, and it is a misunderstanding at the very least. But Brian Flores, Rob, are you kidding me? You see how God works. You see how the universe works. Out of all the Bryans to send a text message to, Belichick sent it to the wrong Brian.
I'm gonna let Brooke take care of this because I know you trying to work me this week. You trying to work me this week. That's why we got Brooke on today. Brooke, I'm so happy to see you here today because I think you might be with the smoke. So, well, Brian Flores in the NFL.
Yeah, that's real. Like I experienced that in the workplace. Like I knew I had applied for like an internal job and had went on the interview and everything and didn't get it. Didn't get the job. Applied for some more jobs internally, didn't get it. But I knew because like 7 years ago, the same boss that I was experiencing trauma from, she probably had something to do with why I didn't get the role in the first place. And so a lot of times we know either.
Oh, they got Brooke now.
Oh, no, not Brooke. She's innocent.
Hello?
Here.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, they got you too, Brooke. They got him. Y'all think it's a joke. Y'all think it's. I told you, I'm not coming on here messing with this stuff today. Because this is the one, man. If I disappear, just know what happened to me.
The man is trying to tap my line.
Yeah. Okay, but that happened to you a couple of years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And you think you're the person that you experienced your corporate trauma with was responsible. Drop that lug on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think so. And a lot of times sometimes I would even go on interviews that I knew, but I don't do that anymore. Go on interviews that I knew I was like, oh, they probably got somebody internally, or oh, I just want to see how this, let me keep interviewing, get my networking and interviewing skills up too. And that's really big that they texted him and then he still went on the interview, because I mean that takes a lot of, I feel like that takes a lot of like courage. Like, I already know the game, and a lot of times, like, I was talking to one of my friends today and I was like, a lot of baby boomers are going to be retiring this year. But also, when you look in corporate America at the senior VP roles, it's the good old boys club. That
Right.
they're up here in their 80s and they're still in like
Holding
VP
on.
roles, and they're gatekeeping these jobs and these roles, especially from people of color, to even get a chance. And I have a friend that she is a headhunter, that she helps find people of color jobs. That's her organization specializing in. And she said that she had an interview with someone and they told her, well, I don't know any black people, so I'm just gonna hire the first white man. And you think about their networks. If they don't have any black friends or they don't have any black people in their network, it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right to say that too, but
Yeah, it's tough. I've stretched I've stretched at times where the uncertainty of whether or not I would get the role was equal to or outweighed my confidence that I would get the role, right? Like, sometimes you go into an interview or promotional situation, right? Similar to what Mr. Flores uh, rendered himself into, with this is a long shot for me, right? But I'm gonna stretch it out because I had a good run. You know what I'm saying? But then there's sometimes you like, yo, I'm a damn good candidate. I'm gonna go in here. I know the interview is important. It'll make me or break me. But I know a couple people on that side. And I got some good indicators. Plus, I got all the metrics. I'm
we look
solid.
we
Like
look good on paper.
I look
Yeah.
good on paper. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm bringing a full breakfast over here that you have to consider. You know what I'm saying? You got waffles, you got hash browns over here, you got grits on the side. Like
Okay.
you got wait, it's fish over here. You know what I mean? Like salmon croquettes, whatever you need. I got it. So, but for but for him to already know that it was an exercise in futility, as hot of a commodity that he is. The NFL has a problem with hiring black coaches.
Mm.
But it makes sense though,
It does
right?
make sense.
But like when you so it makes sense on two ends.
Yep.
Man, I don't know why in the world. I know the devil does not need an advocate, but dog on it, I must be the god of that,
Come on
right?
now.
So I got two pieces for you.
Go ahead.
I'm happy he went, right?
Yep.
Because ultimately, it could have been the difference of a week and a half to know. Because when you really think about whenever that text message came in, Belichick knew,
Mm,
right? Now, granted, Belichick could have known what he was doing or didn't know what he was doing.
right.
But what he did know after the fact is that he sent it to the wrong guy.
Right.
Or he sent it to the right guy, right?
Right. Who
And
knows?
Belichick could have said, yo, man, I didn't let that dude Brian Flores know y'all about to hire him.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all might want to figure
Ain't
this
right.
out because he about to come to the interview.
Yep.
Instead of trying to have him fall up under the Rooney rule, you
Yep.
should probably you got to figure this out,
Right.
right? Because when you really think about it, he's suing for the fact that you were interviewing me because of the Rooney rule to give me a shot, but you already knew who you wanted. So now I'm gonna go because what I don't want to do is pull my name back
And then you
and
say it
then
because of you.
and then you say, well, look, nobody interviewed, and then it is what it is. So he
Right.
goes in.
Right.
Now here's the other now when I say I'm on the other I'm looking at this whole entire thing. Why do we assume that with all of the folks who are talking about on Instagram and Facebook, everybody's talking about generational wealth, right?
Right.
We as a community have finally gotten to the point where It's so many of us that talk about generational wealth. We're
Mhm.
gonna be generational. We're gonna have multiple generations come behind us. Those who are born now, those who are 50 and younger, 50s and 30s.
Right.
We're going to leave something behind.
Right.
The folks who are in power are looking at the landscape and saying,
We gotta change it.
"Am I really gonna sit here and make these awesome, these wonderful, the folks who are the representation of the original man and woman, will I give them the opportunity to rise? Because if I give these folks the opportunity to rise, then my son is good, my grandson is good, but I'm trying to get this right for my great grandson." So when we kind of look at it, these folks are looking at us as the folks who are gonna stop their legacy.
Yeah.
We like I don't think sometimes we really got to look at it for what it is. It doesn't have to be about hate. It's
No.
really about the practicality of you're going to stop what has been in place that has worked for me. That's why when folks talk about diversity and inclusion, right? So you got diversity, inclusion, you got the equity, and there's another E in there somewhere, right? How many folks are willing to give up a piece of theirs to get you to where they are?
That's the conversation.
Come on, bro.
That's the real
Please.
conversation that everybody's
Give
avoiding.
me nothing.
And then guess what? And I just say this last piece. That's the reason that everybody else can get a bill in their name. Everybody else can get reparations of some sort because we represent we are different. We represent something different.
Right.
And sometimes we just have to acknowledge that we represent something different to the system, that the idea of us getting to the top
Right.
as the masses
Right.
of us getting to the top is
Right.
more frightening than all the other groups of people doing well.
Now that's a fact.
That's what we're up against at all points in time. So Brian Flores, you will never, most likely you will, unless you get a black owner, you most likely will be doing a documentary with Colin Kaepernick.
That's real.
And the
Right.
idea, like we openly say that. And somebody was talking about it earlier. They called Josh McCown, who was a quarterback last year or the year before. He was coaching a high school football team. They called him in to come and be a quarterback of a team because they was looking for someone like who could do what they needed. These folks do what they want at all points in time, and we cannot. And I'll just say it like this: this is why corporate trauma is different,
Right.
because we're not just we're telling you to recognize what you're going through and take your power back by leveling up.
That's
Yep.
right. We have to.
With your
These
skills.
folks, we cannot spend another 2 or 3 generations making the country better and everybody else benefits from it more than us.
That's a fact.
I'll leave it there. That
Yeah.
like that, I could
That's
go to
nice.
sleep now. I can
He
go to
got
sleep
it
now.
out.
I'm telling you right now. Listen, we could be. Oh man, we need another Martin and another Malcolm, and we need the
Mm,
honorable Elijah Muhammad. We need some Farrakhan. No, we need unity.
right. That's the
We
only
need
thing we haven't tried.
we
Yep.
need people who care about each other. And the crazy thing is, within our ethnic groups of all of those, whether you want to consider it to just be indigenous, if you want to say black, whatever the case may be, all of those who fall underneath the diaspora, and I always say those who are closer to the original tree, if we just decided one day that we were going to love each other more than we hated each other, we might go to Mars tomorrow because we're that dope, we're that awesome.
Right.
We like the same way we make different music, we might make a different spaceship.
Hmm.
And I
Mhm.
think people miss that piece. We
Mm-hmm.
have so much power, and I'm talking too much today. My God, I told you, Jamal, don't do this topic,
Hey,
man.
but listen, but you tying it together because look, the same junk sciences that inspired um, Hitler's Aryan, whatever you call it, right, was the eugenics movement, from the United States that were junk sciences, pseudosciences that pro promoted the superiority of the races. It's the same junk science that governs the NFL today, right? RG3 said Robert Griffin III, former quarterback for the Washington football team, um, was talking about how Flores he basically sacrificed his career so that people coming behind him could benefit. But then at the same token, the NFL had to throw out a year ago a insurance clause in um player personnel payouts for cognitive injuries because they said black players started at a lower cognitive level than white players. And they had to be confronted on that. That was a year ago. It's a year ago, right? And then Brian Flores gets fired because he has integrity, enough integrity, right, to identify with the players on the field, not to make them lose on purpose. Right? That's just a direct connection to the players he's coaching. I'm not going to ruin my career. If I'm going to ruin my career, it's going to be on my terms and not by going diametrically opposed to what I'm actually saying that I am, which is a football player turned coach who's coaching other football players. Right? Y'all see the connection there? And then we're gonna end it with Mr. Ted Cruz. Now, Brooke, you got to tell me, help us. I mean, we could talk all day about this, but we have to bring a black woman to the witness stand. Are you insulted that President Biden has earmarked this open position for a quote unquote so called African American or black female or woman? Are
No,
you?
I am not offended. I am happy. I'm elated. I'm ecstatic. I'm saying about time. Black women, we have been doing the thing. Less than it's only 2 or 3 black women that are in the Fortune 500 um, area of president and CEOs of companies,
Right,
and we just got maybe 2 recently in the last couple years. Look at Stacey Abrams, how black women have been leading in the political space.
right,
So this is our time. Black women, we're more than qualified. Black women, we have the most businesses. We're more qualified in corporate America. We're leading the age. So it's about time that black women are recognized. We deserve this. We're more than qualified to get these roles. So why not bring us in? I don't want to hear about, the what do they call it in the workplace or in schools when people have you just got here because of the
I don't care. What
yeah,
is it?
whatever
We don't care
yeah,
whatever
about that. We're
whatever
not
they
buying into that no more.
say.
I
That nonsense.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Like I've had the opportunity. I went to a HBCU and a PWI.
Same,
And
Hmm.
I've
same.
had and I took up space in both areas. And black women, we're here to hear our voice heard. It's morning time. Look at the criminal justice system and just period. Like it wasn't meant for black people. It's working how it's supposed to work because
That's
it
right.
wasn't meant to help us or to protect us, to protect black women, to protect black men. We're getting killed in our homes, killed, off the streets. Let a black woman in on this role. I'm just more excited and more elated. It's past time. It's 2022. We just got
Yeah,
a quarter. We
You
just
should
got
have
a
said
quarter.
3. You should have said, if I get the opportunity to nominate 3
Yeah.
Supreme Court justices, they all gonna be black women. And I'm telling you right now, it'd have been on and popping. It
Hey,
would have been
listen,
on and popping.
because it's not because when you deal, and this is my experience, when you deal with black women on that level, it's
Oh,
not it's not simple. It's not what you see is what you get.
it's gonna be something to pay, boy.
We
I
Huh?
just
coming.
know.
We
It's not.
coming.
It's not. You know what I'm saying? Like in certain circumstances, when you're dealing with people on these high levels, what you see is what you get. That is not the case. I'm willing to stake my reputation on it. That is not the case when it comes to black women. It's just there's too many examples that that's not the case. Now, Brooke, how do you feel about Ted Cruz arrogating and speaking on behalf of how black women in general should feel? Now, you've already said you are not insulted, but how do you feel about him saying that you should be?
Like, who are you, Tech? Who are you to say that you're not a black woman? You have quote unquote privilege. You have years and years of the upper hand, of years of the financial, or just all of that, and I don't who is he to speak? He is the spokesperson for black women to lead us in our charge. Who is he to even say black women should be offended?
Yeah, I
So I
totally get it. I mean, I just look at it. I look at it like this: if there's never been a black woman appointed to that role in 200 some odd years, and we're getting ready to make sure one, then black women are the most qualified. Not because of the demographics and the math. There's never been one. You mean never, ever, ever? Like that's not. However, we talking about leveling up, and at the end of the day, as my man Robert so eloquently laid out several episodes ago, if those, in particular, people of color, but just in general, people who are mostly represented by the corporate trauma experience. If America woke up tomorrow and we were missing, what would that be like? Right? And that is a real conversation that we have to talk about, because the only real way to level up is to have a control over your situation where this overly stated and skewed narrative that excludes people like us from the table is rendered obsolete. Like, okay, we don't have, what I mean, nobody on the Supreme Court, but we are operating ourselves as a community where that misstep doesn't even matter. Now you have to come to us to get our permission to nominate one of us, because what we're doing on our end, aside from you, in our own unified situation, right, is so impactful that you need us, that you have to bring us in, right? Like, what if Brian Flores didn't have to worry about the top professional football head coaching job is in one league? What if there was another league? What if there was a league that would, right? These are the conversations that we have to start having. Um, what if Whoopi Goldberg had her own platform where she could say something like that and be protected, and have the opportunity to make a mistake if it is even decided that it's a mistake? What if
Yeah.
there's a safe space for her to do that? Now we're talking about something completely different. That's how you solve corporate trauma. There has to be a separation, right? There
You're
has to
not.
be there has to be some level of, you know what? I don't need you no more. Right?
You
Right.
can't
Rob
keep.
talks about it all the time.
Yeah,
Alleviate yourself from this abusive relationship.
you keep showing up to somebody's house, right? You keep showing up to somebody's house, and they bust you upside the head with a bat, and then you show up tomorrow, and they hit you again, and then you like, and then next thing you know, they stop hitting you, but then they do something else to you that impacts your life and your family. And compared to trying to figure out how do you remove yourself from the situation, You're trying to figure out how do you change their mindset from hitting you,
Yep.
right? Which ultimately leaves the power in their hand to move how they deem necessary.
Right.
Brian Flores, I'm happy that he took on the fight, but after this, then maybe you got to go coach at a HBCU. Go down there in the SWAC or the SWIAC or wherever
Same. Yeah.
prime time is,
Yeah.
Deion Sanders, right?
Yeah.
You go down there and you start recruiting and you start getting these young men to come and play. And then maybe over time, you get a league with 10 teams in it, you know what I mean? Or 20
Yeah.
teams that can compete. Bring the whole entire thing back because at the end of the day, you're in somebody else's house.
Right.
And the only thing that kind of works in our favor is because they say their fear. That's the only thing you go off of. They say their fear and they write rules. They write them. Nobody else writes them for them.
Mm-hmm.
They write them. You know what I mean? And then ultimately they break them. And then ultimately they're gonna pay you a little bit of cash.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's business as usual.
Business as usual.
We got to get our own.
Got to get our own.
Got to get
There
our
it
own,
is.
build our own, because it's, that's like me. I got laid off when I went through my corporate trauma, and I was gonna sue, but then I got because I wasn't fired, I was laid off. I got a nice little severance package. And my nice little severance package, you cannot sue the
Can't sue it.
company for any reason, for anything, and hurry up and sign this paper within two days, or you're not going to get anything at all. And then who has the money or the resources to sue them? Um, and go through all of that. And then I hear some people, some people have been successful and sued and gotten money for their biases or being treated misfairly, and all of that. But yeah, we have to build our own. That's why I'm so happy that we have podcasts, we have our own businesses, we
Mhm.
have other ways to make money and make income, and you're not just relying on one person that's gonna be controlling your income or when you're gonna get paid, what you can say, what you can't say, and all of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a fact. Like, you know, if 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 the person that's your benefactor is making all the rules, you never win. Even when you think you do, you don't. Right. And and that's why this is an important conversation. Did we really went dense? To all my people out there in the corporate trauma, level up past corporate trauma podcast community. This is our first Black History Month episode, right? And this conversation, with Rob, is usually always simmering at the surface, right? But we felt it appropriate to go beneath the surface because it's such a relevant, it's such a needed conversation to happen. Um, because at the end of the day, you know, and I'll take the Brian Flores um, example. In my opinion, he did the right thing. He couldn't live with himself by tanking, right? He did the right thing. He won. He coached the right way. He pulled the team together and he was successful, but he was still punished. They still took his job from him. What does how do we feel when we perform beyond the scope of expectation and we still get treated as if we fail? See, this is an indicator that the that old good old boys network that Brooke was talking about is still gatekeeping the last frontier of their stronghold on these things that we are on the horizon to inherit. And either we're going to accelerate that or we're going to slow it down by the decisions that we make, right? There's only a couple ways that that's going to work out. Um, but at the end of the day, the time is up for all that. People ain't falling for the banana in the tailpipe no more, Rob. He was like, you know what? I'm suing. Right now, I can't coach. What NFL team is going to hire him now? He
Listen,
done, right? Like, but
None.
no,
He's like, pack it up.
pack
Like,
it up. So, Brooke,
yeah,
wonderful. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on. We took up a lot of your time.
we sure did.
Took up a lot of, but we couldn't. We had to, we had to do it the right way. We took up a lot of your time. We don't
oh,
apologize, but we sorry.
oh, I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure to be
And you
on.
got to come back. And you got to come back. And as customary for anyone who volunteers their time to add on to our conversation, if there's anything that we can do to assist you, um, and if you have any ideas that you want to share with our platform, you have an open invitation. Please tell the good folks out there, anything that you may have coming up or how to get in contact with you.
Yes, you can get in contact with me through my website at brookwaller.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at brook underscore motivates. I'll be having some more Instagram live series for this month for Black History Month. And I am just so excited to speak to your audience and look forward to partnering with you again in the future.
Excellent. Well, you continue to do the good work, and Rob, we got another ally. Take care,
Bye bye.
Rob.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, man.
What's up? What's up, brother? Hey, man, listen, all this stuff becomes more evident, man. It
Yeah, I
all
think we
becomes
kicked.
more evident.
Yeah,
It
I
all
think we kicked the
becomes more
can on
evident.
that. Yeah, I think we did a good job kicking the can around on that. And like I said, man, if we made some of y'all uncomfortable, that's what we aim to do. Because
Hmm.
if you're comfortable, you're not growing. Um, we're not trying to offend anyone, right? We're not trying to elevate our experiences, our purview over yours. We're not arrogating that we know. And Lord knows I'm not espousing perfection or that I ain't never made a mistake or said something that was not necessarily 100%. But what we do want to do is allow there to be a platform for individuals like the people that we see when we look in the mirror to talk about things that are not socially acceptable
Correct.
content in advocacy of a better professional experience, right?
Hmm. There you
Like,
go.
and it's just natural for me to talk about it because of my personal experience, but it's normal for people to have to deal with these things on a larger level. Um, and instead of just expecting it to go away, you don't say anything or expecting that, this is the norm, this is what I got to put up with, and so on and so forth. Nah, man, if you're experiencing corporate trauma, workplace trauma, you're experiencing burnout, microaggressions, you're experiencing, um, what's the other micro, passive aggressive behavior. You're
Hmm.
experiencing narcissism in the workplace, professional harassment. Somebody email you at 3:45, you get off at 4, and following up at 9:30, and you start work at 9:15 on something that could have waited, and then on top of you, like if you're experiencing these things and you feel like there's nothing that you can do about it, or that there's nothing that you can say because you have no power because your livelihood is tied into it. This is what this platform is about: an identity, representation, race. Um,
Hmm.
the things that make us who we are as people are a large part of who we bring with us to work every day, even if you're a professional or if you are an entrepreneur or if you consider yourself an employee, you're still a person.
Hmm.
So thank y'all for listening. Rob, last words.
Um, be great, right? There are going to be ups and downs. There's going to be a continued fight, but I think as we get older and we learn from the lessons of those who have come before us in previous generations, I will just say We no longer gotta be the people who sacrifice for everybody else to do well.
That's right.
And take that and think about how that makes sense for your life in the sense of if we got to start our own, if we have to figure out how we interact with people who are about what we're about, who we have things in common with. So that is not about a race thing. It's about folks who are on board with the things that you're passionate about and the things that you love, and they love you. Be in places where you're loved.
Right.
You know, those previous generations when they went to places and, oh, I know they don't like me, but I got to do this. There's so many opportunities. There are 10 million jobs that are vacant in the United States. If you got to go and get a certificate in project management and data analytics from Google, whatever the case may be,
Do
there
it.
is a program out there that you don't need any prior experience to get a certificate or to get something. And these things you might only have to pay $125 to get the certificate.
Talk to him, Rob.
Figure out how you get your own lane. And I want to be clear with this. And then you might end up at another place that might be about corporate trauma. But I will tell you this: get to the money and get out.
Right.
If you feel like it's not for you, we work in places where we getting you getting knocked upside the head and they paying you $9.19 an hour.
Right.
Go get you $60 an hour, stack your bread, and then you move to the country and you farm your land. Whatever the case may be, you figure out how you get your freedom and you get a sense of pride that you can provide for you and your family. I'll leave it there. I didn't talk more than what I thought, but as always, I appreciate this platform, and I hope other folks appreciate it like we
Absolutely. I appreciate the folks that's appreciating us too.
do.
You know what I'm saying? Do corporate trauma, leveling up from corporate trauma
Hmm.
is doing something for yourself. And remember, corporate trauma is a sneaky passive trauma that will creep up on you. And when it does,
It's time to level up.
see y'all next week. Hope you enjoy. Peace.
Peace.